Hey, Elise, Pickett here with the Urban Harvest, and today I am going to share with you some quick tips on how to prevent your tomatoes from splitting or cracking from too much rain, as well as the difference between indeterminate and determinate tomatoes. First things first, indeterminate tomatoes versus determinate tomatoes. Indeterminate tomatoes are varieties of tomatoes that tend to be on the smaller side, like cherry tomatoes or pear tomatoes. And what happens is they are producing over a longer season in smaller quantities. So this Umberto here doesn't produce a ton of tomatoes all at once. It produces them consistently over the season, a handful here, a handful there, every couple of days. And that's what indeterminate means. If you look on the package of tomato seed or at the store, it's often overlooked, but all of those varieties will list whether they are determinate or indeterminate on the package. This tomato plant is a determinate tomato plant. And they differ from indeterminate tomatoes in that they're going to be producing a large quantity of tomatoes that ripen almost at the same time. This is great for sauces and canning, processing large batches of tomatoes, but you're going to get all of them ripening right around the same time frame. In general, but not always, they tend to be your bigger tomatoes, your slicing tomatoes or your sauce tomatoes. Now let's talk about your tomatoes splitting or cracking. Both varieties of tomatoes, both large and small, indeterminate and determinate, can split or crack. When that happens, the tomato does it because generally there's been too much water all at once. So when we have heavy rainstorms or you change up your watering routine for whatever reason, you'll likely see splitting or cracking starting on your tomatoes. Sometimes it will scab over and heal itself and continue ripening like these here, but sometimes it will cause rotting in and around the crack because bugs, bacteria, and other things get into that and start decomposing the tomato. Why does this relate to determinate and indeterminate tomatoes? If you have indeterminate tomato varieties, you're able to harvest what you can as you can. So if you know there's a big rainstorm coming, you can go out and harvest anything that's close to ripe and save those from splitting or cracking. Whereas with determinate tomatoes, you're kind of stuck waiting. Hopefully they scab over, but they may not, and you may end up losing some or all of the fruit that is ripening. I tend to favor indeterminate tomato varieties here for that reason. It's much more important going into the spring planting of tomatoes just because towards the tail end of that season you will be having our summer rains. It's less important in the fall just because we have very inconsistent rains through the winter months. When you're trying to harvest your tomatoes before a rainstorm comes, it likely means that you'll be picking a little bit before they are actually ripe. And although it would be nice to let them ripen on the vine for full flavor and nutrition, it's better to have some harvest than no harvest. So I do pick mine just a little under ripe, just to make sure that I don't have any cracking or splitting before rainstorms. To sum it up, pick appropriate varieties for the season that you're heading into. Planting in raised beds or containers also helps to prevent the soil from getting too waterlogged, and make sure to water consistently and regularly so that it isn't as much of a shock if we do get those heavy rainstorms. Now you know what to look for on your tomato tags when you're trying to determine indeterminate tomatoes versus determinate tomatoes. As a reminder, I typically do determinate tomatoes in the fall and indeterminate tomatoes in the spring to avoid any issues of cracking or splitting from our heavy rainstorms as the summer rains start to come in. I hope you all found this video helpful. If you like more tomato videos or more Florida-based vegetable gardening tips and tricks, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you're alerted every time a new video comes out on Florida-based vegetable gardening. Have a great day.